Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Club Junkie Podcast. Another Thursday for you. Burning through the weeks, getting into spring. Super excited. Got big thing to talk about today, or excited thing to talk about today. A couple things, actually, to talk about, which will be interesting. But one of them is something I've been waiting to talk to, or tell you guys about for a while now, and it's just finally embargoes here. But before we get into it, just want to let you know this episode brought to you by Titleist and Vokey Design SM9 wedges are a product of superior handcrafted technology. Each one an instrument of creative control, created from the most advanced materials, engineered to deliver ideal flight and spin, with grinds designed to release your best wedge plate possible. There are many ways to make a wedge, but only one way to make a Vokey. Titleist Vokey Design SM9 wedges, superior handcrafted technology. Find yours, Vokey.com. So go check it out. A lot of SM9 stuff. I've been messing with SM9s. I might have to see about getting a set as well, because they're nice. They're super soft. I love the feel of them compared to my SM8s. The design's great. Everything about them really, really good. But today, I finally get to talk about stuff I've been hinting at for a while now. But finally get to talk about PXG Gen5 woods and irons. So, as a bunch of you know, I went out to Scottsdale, what is it, like 3 weeks ago now? Something like that? 3 weeks ago? 4 weeks? I don't know, something like that. 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Right about that. And got to go out there to the wonderful Scottsdale National Golf Club and check out all the new stuff. So got to hit it on the range, got to play around to golf with it, talk to all the engineers, all the people from PXG, and got fit into a set. It was pretty cool, and I don't remember now if I talked a whole lot about Scottsdale National or not, or what, but it is a very, very amazing place, and if I ever had the means, I would definitely be walking up and begging Bob Parsons there for a membership, because it is extremely nice. Probably the best food I've ever eaten. Very cool people. Nobody playing the course or courses, and it's just amazing. So it was a ton of fun. It was just amazing to see the place. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. Great short game area, great range. The course that we played was pretty fun. I mean, it was like I said, they have two, and like I said, overall just a really good time. And we had a bunch of media there, a lot of the same media people we always hang out with were there, but some new ones, some people from IG, some kind of influencer type people as well. So a wide range of people there hanging out, but it was a really good time, and it was the first time I've ever been to PXG for their event. A lot of the people there had been there previously, so they kind of knew what to expect. I was one of the newbies there, and didn't know, and just kind of walked into it, kind of open-minded, wide-eyed, and very impressed with everything going on there. But it was really fun. It was really cool, and it's really exciting to see. I mean, I know that everybody kind of looks at the commercials and the kabooms and all the stuff there, and people that make jokes or whatever. But I can tell you this, that the engineers, the people who are creating these clubs and all that, there is no joking there. They're doing everything they can to make the best clubs possible. And, to sit there and if you go on golfwrex.com and look at the front page, you'll see some of the launch pieces for the woods, the irons, all that. And there's a couple videos in there that I did with Brad Schweigert, who's one of the head engineers there, and just talking about the irons and the clubs. And if you don't see the passion that comes through his tone of voice and his interview and me talking to him, I mean, it's pretty amazing to talk to these guys and just see that they go into this, just trying to make the absolute best products they can. And, they're empowered by old Bob Parsons to kind of do things a little differently, do things the way they want. And it's pretty cool. So, like I said, and again, I can't remember, I don't know why I can't remember now, but I don't remember how much of the whole story I told you, but went and played, and I think I did. I think I played with Brian Baumgartner, Kevin from The Office. Got to play with him. Got to play basically 27 holes with him. Played the Bad Little Nine. So Scottsdale National has two courses and then a little nine course, and the Bad Little Nine is just absolutely brutal. It's just one of the hardest little 9-hole courses I've ever played. The undulation, some of the bunkering, and some of the greens are just absolutely tiny. And it was a good time. We played a little scramble at night. The Scottsdale National, it's so crazy. They have separate carts for night golf on the Bad Little Nine. So these golf carts, which kind of look similar, they're all painted this like metallic orange. But then you look, and these carts have like full LED light bars on them and all this stuff, so you can like light up the green and putt and all that. And it's light up the tee boxes, and it's just a really cool thing. And we rolled up, and they had a guy there like, hey, had bags of drinks out there if you wanted something to go play. And it was went out there with our foursome, and like I said, we had Brian Baumgartner there, and we went out and played. And I think we ended up being like 1 under, and that was with like a double bogey on the 9th hole. And the 9th hole is unbelievable on this Bad Little Nine. I mean the green is the size of like the hood of your car. I hit a shot that it like basically almost never left the flag. Landed 3 feet short, spun off the green into the bunker, and then we got it out. I mean it's probably 4.5, 5 feet up from the bunker onto the green. Every one of us got it basically out of the bunker, but it hit the green and just had like no spin or whatever, and it would just roll off the other side of the green. So we had to like chip it back on, and we ended up making I think double there, and we still ended up I think -1. But it was fun. It was a good time. It was cool there, and like I said, Baumgartner's just an awesome golf dude. Him and I chat there at lunch, eating quesadillas, talking about golf grips for like 30 minutes at the bar. Neither of us were even drinking. We're just eating lunch and just talking golf grips for like 30 minutes about just stuff that he likes, and stuff that I've had experience with, and what he was looking for and all that. And it was pretty exciting. But yeah, PXG kind of pulled out all the stops for the Gen 5 stuff. It was it was kind of a whole event. You showed up at Scottsdale National, and you showed up Monday. I showed up Monday morning really early. I think my flight left Detroit at 7, so I got in there like 10:30. So by the time I got I got in there at like 8:30 because the time change or something, and then drove out. It's like a 45-minute drive to the actual course, and got there, checked in, and it was just like I was at the resort. I mean, it was just really cool. Then you're there, and it's just wild how nice the accommodations and everything are. I mean, it was just amazing. So, but anyway, went there, hung out. The course was really cool. I mean, I'm very, very green to desert golf. I don't play a lot of it. I've probably played maybe 3 or 4 courses in my life in terms of desert golf, that style where it's basically fairway, if you want to call it rough. I mean, it's nearly basically not rough. It's cut pretty short, and then it's just desert. So if you hit anything beyond that, but I mean, the fairways with the rough are usually pretty generous. It usually takes a pretty poor shot to get it into the desert, which I was able to do. I was able to knock a few out there, but it was the course is super nice. I mean, everything about it was great. So it was fun, and like I said, some of the best food I ever had. I got to sit next to Mr. Bob Parsons at dinner, and talk about golf, talk about cars, talk about it was one of those things, just talking about trucks and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty fun experience, and then just an overall really good time, and they treated everybody great. So I really appreciate that, and thank everybody from PXG for everything they did there, because it was a very good couple days. And then flew home and had an early flight out, and I was tired, and I was ready to get home. So, but anyway, so got in Gen 5 stuff. Gen 5. Basically, the big thing in woods is basically talking about stability. I mean, that was the big kind of the big focus in the woods presentation, was getting woods that, of course, had better ball speed, better better distance, spin control, all that. But the other side of it too was basically getting to being extremely stable, extremely forgiving, and easy to hit as well. So a whole lot of that, which I know has been kind of the big theme across, I think, all 2022 drivers. It's pretty much been stability and getting, mishits and keeping the ball in play when you don't put a great swing on it. And PXG's in the same boat. That's what they're doing. They're basically trying to, again, create clubs that are really playable, yet, really long and really fast. So the Gen 5, we've got 2 drivers. I only have the one in hand right now because I went through a full, basically a full bag fitting for the most part. Even if it wasn't just like a full blown fitting, I mean, it was at least when we did putters, went up on one of the putting greens. They had the big kit that they rolled out that they could slap different hostels, different heads, lengths, all that together. Grips. Basically, the whole putter was like modular, and they could like slap it together however you needed it. So that wasn't like, we weren't using Quintac or anything like that, but we were basically rolling putts, and I was working with a guy from PXG, and we were kind of rolling putts and looking at things differently, trying different things, and basically ended up with a putter. And then same thing with wedges. Me and the guy kind of doing the fitting was actually a guy from Michigan, which was pretty funny. I seem to run into Michigan people literally everywhere. And the putters and wedges aren't new. Those are Sugar Daddy 2s and the PXG. I think I had a Bad Attack putter, but those 2 aren't new for Gen 5. It's just basically woods, fairways, or drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons. Then the Sugar Daddy 2 wedges. Again, my kind of fitter. We were just there, kind of hitting different shots, and he was watching for turf interaction, divots, things like that, and settled on some Sugar Daddy 2 wedges, which I'll talk about kind of at the end as well, because I know those aren't necessarily new, but hitting those and hitting different shots, and their short game area is massive. So we were hitting shots that were probably 30-40 yards, and then moved into some bunker shots and things like that. So we kind of hit all sorts of different shots with the wedges to kind of figure out, go between the 2 different grinds and things like that. But anyway, Gen 5 drivers are really good. I think the biggest thing with Gen 5 is, I think every year, and you got to excuse the little rattle if you're watching this, or watching this on YouTube, or you're hearing this over the microphone. I have switched out the screw that's typically in this PXG head for the all-fit screw, and it definitely has a little more of a rattle to it than the other, than the actual OEM screw. But since I'm using all-fit and able to switch shafts out, so I had to replace the screw, and it is definitely wobbly in there. But anyway, 2 different heads for the PXG Gen 5s. 0311 is still the numerals that they're sticking with. That's going to be kind of the name, I think, going forward for quite some time. They're just going to kind of stick with that. I know there were some different wood numbers out there, but I think they all kind of agreed that was just getting a little confusing trying to remember all these different 4-digit numbers. So they're sticking with 0311, and then this year there's just the 0311, and then there's the 0311 XF. And the XF is basically just the extra forgiving head. So this is the XF, because that's the one I actually got fit into. And on the top here, the look of it is really nice. They've got a little more, I'll call it traditional crown. The top is all carbon fiber there, and it's kind of a little more of a silverish color, matte silver, and it's the an AV carbon, so aluminum vapor technology, which wraps the carbon fiber there in an aluminum vapor that basically adds some stiffness and rigidity to it. They've got brand new face technology for increased ball speeds. The XF here comes in 9, 10.5, 12 degrees. And if you notice on the hosel, which you probably don't because you're probably not watching this on YouTube, this is a 12-degree head. The 0311, the standard one, comes in 7.5, 9, and 10.5 degrees. But of course, as usual, they have the adjustable hosel on them, which you can go down 1.5 degrees and go up 1.5 degrees. So really, I could make this 13.5 degrees if I really wanted to, and you could make that 7.5, basically a 6-degree driver, which is pretty wild to think about. But they basically, have 2 drivers, and the XF is going to be the bigger profile, a little more stretched out from front to back, a little longer heel to toe. It's got like a little shallower face, where the 0311, a little deeper, a little more compact look for those, kind of players who demand that. And, depending on what you want, they've got 2 different models. And really, they kind of said that, even though the XF is, kind of stands for like extreme forgiveness, either one of them can be played by basically any range of handicaps for the most part. They'll see 0311 players who, are higher handicap but need a little lower spin, a little more control. And that is, I mean, the 0311 will launch a little bit lower and a spin a little less than the XF. So, and the whole reason, so I did my fitting, and basically I started out in the 0311. We were starting that in, I think, Ventus Blue, I believe it was. No, maybe it was Ventus Black. I'm trying to remember. I hit like so many combos. Or not even so many combos, but just, it was one of those fittings where I had my fitter Jessie, who was awesome. She was absolutely amazing, and she's a phenomenal player. And she was just handing me stuff, and I was just hitting it, and I wasn't asking questions, or I was answering the questions she had about feel and things like that. But in terms of ball flight and all those things, I just kind of let her hand me stuff, and that way I didn't really have any kind of bias towards what I was hitting or what I wasn't. But this one here, it like I said, went to driver. I started out with the 0311. Even like, because I think I said I played a 10.5. I think I even said like last year I was playing like a 10.5 Sim 2 Max with a Ventus Black. And I even said, I don't hit a super high ball, kind of, broke down what I was doing. And I think she handed me the 0311 first with what could have been a Ventus Black. Like I said, I'm trying to remember because we were swapping stuff out. So it's hard to keep track of everything you're hitting. But anyway, started out with the 0311. And even in the 10.5, could kind of see my tendency shut the face at the top. I kind of missed it left. That was my big thing. So with the, the 10.5 head in the 0311, it just kind of wasn't getting high enough in the air. And if we needed to move up in loft, which we did. It was just, unfortunately, I was shutting the face then, and then I wasn't kind of hitting it as straight as I was hoping to. So we moved over to the 0311 XF and hit this, and it was the 10.5 was definitely much better. We hit that, and then I kind of jokingly even said, I was like, maybe I just need the 12-degree head, and she was like, you know what? Or I think I said, like, maybe I just get the 12-degree head and take it down a little bit to open the face up. And she was like, that's exactly what we're going to do. So she went over, had to walk down the range of like the other tent to grab the 12-degree head, and brought it in and put it in the down one flat position. So PXG has all the markings on their adapter, and then if they have a PXG logo on one section of it, and the PXG is the flat setting, so you could really flatten out the driver. And I don't remember exactly how many degrees it goes flat, but it flattens it out. And then there's a flat with one up and flat with one down. So we set it flat with one down. Actually, I think we moved it to 1.5 down, hit some balls, and then I still was missing it just a little bit left. Moved it to flat one and was hitting it really, really well. So I moved into I've got a 12-degree head. And the shaft that I kind of moved into was Ventus Blue, which, again, is so interesting because I think when I get into these fitting situations, I slow everything down, the tempo gets better, because I'm just trying not to, like, embarrass myself. I mean, like Chris Nickel from my golf spy was standing right there talking to me because he was finished with his fitting, so he was talking, watching, and, a couple other people were hanging out, and you got this fitter. And being in golf media, I think you think that all these people expect you to be this phenomenal player or whatever. And I think I slow everything down, and I hit it really well in the range, especially. And I think that's why. So Ventus Blue ended up working the best. And I was sitting there going, okay, well, now I'm into Ventus Blue. Ventus Blue is typically the one I play the least when it comes to out on the course. But hey, that's fine. So they built it up with a Ventus Blue. So I've got a 0311 XF 12-degree head set flat and 1 degree lower. So it's basically an 11-degree head flat, and that's what I was fit into. And I tell you what, by the time we were done, I was definitely hitting the ball a lot better. I was definitely hitting a lot straighter, and I even had a couple misses to the right, which typically aren't something that I usually have. But the PXG head looks good. When it's set down, it looks super open. When he set down this driver, I went to the range with it, and a buddy of mine saw it, and he goes, "What's this?" And I was like, "Well, it's this Gen 5, And he set it down, and he goes, "Holy smokes!" And I was like, "Yeah, it's probably about 4 degrees open." He's like, "At least." So it sits super flat, super open. And you honestly don't see that much loft. I was kind of shocked. In the 12-degree head, I thought for sure you were going to see just an absolute ton of the face because it's 12 degrees, and you really don't. Like, it really is, even being so open, you just don't see that much face on it, which is pretty surprising to me. Because I was a little worried about that when she went to go grab the head, that I was going to be just looking at nothing but face. And I wasn't. It really actually, even in the 12-degree head, has a good shape. I think the 10.5 in the 0311 looks great. Like I said, it's a little more compact, not as stretched out from front to back. Has a real classic shape to it if you like that. But the XF, to me, I like having a slightly bigger looking driver anyway. So for me, I like the XF, the look of it, just because it's a little bigger. I feel like I can kind of hit it anywhere in the face. And then on the sole of it, we've got 3 movable weights as well. So we've got 2 lightweights and a heavyweight. I think that's what it is, 2 lightweights and a heavyweight. No, I'm sorry, 2 heavies and a light. And it's interesting, so you can move, like Brad Schweiger, the head engineer, was talking how you can, they've built so much MOI into this driver now to make it super forgiving. And he actually said, if you're somebody who really needs to lower some spin, you could take the 2 heavy weights and move them up front. So there's 2 up front, kind of one in the heel, one in the toe, and then 1 all the way back. And if you really need to like kind of lower a little bit of spin, and maybe flatten the launch at a touch, you can move the heavy weights up front, and it changes the MOI like very little in the head. It still stays extremely stable, which was really interesting because, typically when you move all that weight forward, things get kind of out of whack. But the way he said, the way they designed it, and there's so much weight around the perimeter that it actually, changes the MOI very little. It's still extremely forgiving, even in that lower launch, lower spin setting by moving the weights forward, which is kind of cool. But like I said, from a dress, overall the look is really good. The crown down here in my basement kind of studio, it doesn't quite have like the texture and the pop that the silver kind of did out in the sun. When you're out in the sun, you're definitely going to see the weave. You're going to see that silver in it. But it's really, it's not bad. Like, it's not distracting in any way. It's just you notice it more than down here where it's dark and there's no light shining off it. But overall, the look is really good. PXG heads, I like the adjustability. I love the fact that you can kind of toss it into a flat setting for people like myself who shut the face and hook it. But overall, love the look. The appearance looks really good. Like I said, got it in with a Ventus Blue 6X, and went out to hit some great balls with it. I unfortunately didn't ask for any numbers when I was hitting it, but this one I was definitely hitting downrange better than any other combination. And we were hitting into the wind, unfortunately, so you were even just distance-wise not hitting anything crazy long in terms of what the launch monitor showed, but or what TrackMan showed, but it was nice. So I had that built, and I'll tell you what, the sound and feel, the sound is definitely still a little loud. I know they made a big a push about how they've kind of changed the acoustics and kind of modified those to have it sound and feel better. The feel on it's really good. It's really responsive. It's easy to tell, did you hit it off the toe? Did you hit it off the heel? That portion of it, super responsive. It is a little loud, and I think there's some of that, ping influence design in there. But it definitely has a little louder sound. Now, it's not G425 loud. It's definitely not that loud, but it definitely is louder than like a Sim or a Rogue ST or a Cobra LTDX. Like those, it definitely is, the loudest out of that bunch. But overall, it's not that bad. And I think if you were to toss like a tiny little hot melt right into the face, it would sound really, really good, which I may do. We'll see. So took that thing out to the course, and to be honest, the biggest thing you'd notice is it is pretty forgiving. The first 2 holes, flat out almost topped the ball. The 2, I think it was one of those things. I was playing with Baumgartner and 2 other guys, and literally, I think I was so nervous on the first hole, or I don't know why I was nervous. I think we were playing 2-man best ball thing, and I think the first 2 shots I hit, I flat cold, like, I don't know how I made it even on the face. Just burners. But once I got a little more comfortable and relaxed with the gents out there on the course, it definitely is a very, very easy driver to hit. I definitely got away with some swings that were not good. The ball just really wants to go straight with this thing. Now I've got the heavy weights, 1 back, 1 in the toe, so I've got it kind of set up for as much fade as you really could as you could set it up for. And I really only had like 1 drive, which again is me, took it back, shut the face of the top, came over the top, smothered it left, and the ball was absolutely gone. Like, there was no even looking for it. It was one of those just get another ball to the bag, re-tee it, and let's roll, because there was no finding it. And if you were going to find it, it was probably hanging out in a rattlesnake cave or something like that. So I was definitely not going to look for it. But I really only had one of those. Everything else I could hit, with a good swing. I'd either hit like a nice little gentle draw or it would go straight. Like, those were the two shots I had. And I hit some shots, again, that kind of got high toe. That's where I kind of miss it a lot lately, just because I get a little steep when I come over the top and down on it. But even those shots where I was getting a little steep, spin-wise, it seemed to stay definitely under control. Nothing ballooned. I wasn't hitting anything straight in the air. Everything was a pretty boring trajectory. It was really, like I said, easy to hit, and everything that I hit stayed on line. I mean, I hit, I wouldn't say I hit every fairway, because I definitely didn't, but I was in play so, like, much more than I thought I would be. I mean, with desert golf, I'm always super nervous that I'm going to, snipe it so far left that I'm just never going to find the ball. And like I said, I had one of those. Not a huge deal. It happens. But for the most part, the rest of the day, I was just hitting the ball really well. Or at least decently well. Like, I wouldn't even say I was just striping it, but I was hitting decent shots, and they were all basically staying in play. Even one where my partner hit one OB. Baumgartner's talking smack to me because, I'm up now, and I've got to hit the fairway. And I just bombed one down there that caught one of the slopes, and it rolled down to this low area. I don't even know how far it was, but it was crazy long because I caught the kind of the speed slot in the fairway, and it just ran forever. So, like, stuff like that, I hit the driver really well. I mean, when the ball hits the face, it does feel like it compresses and kind of jumps off the face. They had some graphs for some robot testing between, like, the Gen 5 stuff and the Gen 4 stuff, and, in terms of ball speed and things like that, I mean, there wasn't monster differences in the graphs between them. I mean, when you look at, like, say, the Gen 4 0811 XF and the Gen 5 XF, it's like, less than 1 mile per hour ball speed increase. But overall, I thought the driver was pretty darn long. I mean, I've hit a handful of PXG woods in the day, and I remember the original drivers were okay, I guess, and then they've each gotten better kind of as everything's gone along. And these ones here, I think, are definitely the best that PXG has made. I think they're extremely stable when you hit it off the toe, hit it off the heel, whatever. They definitely stay on line. There's a ton of stability there. In terms of distance, I think they're going to hold up with just about anything. I mean, I think the ball speed and things like that are really, really good. The biggest improvement, like everybody else, is just improving that ball speed on the miss hits. They're getting so much better in that. But this thing here is not, except the one big thing that I'm kind of shocked with is it's not a crazy high launching, crazy high spinning driver. I mean, it just really isn't. I guess they, with the movable weights, there are ways that they can make this head like really lightweight, paired up with a super lightweight shaft, and make it, much easier for people with, the slower clubhead speeds to swing. But overall, I mean, I thought it was a pretty flat launching driver. I mean, I would call it maybe mid high. It definitely was. It probably was just on par with my Stealth plus 10.5, and this thing in the 12 turned down. I thought they were pretty close in terms of flights. Now, I could get one or two that would get pretty high in this thing if you caught it high in the face and it really got up in the air. Sure, it would go pretty high, but realistically, I was pretty impressed with how flat this thing launched for being such a high lofted head. And the 0311, the standard one, I mean, I'd call that thing mid to mid low all day. I mean, it's a mid launcher, low spin. It just hits flat shots all day. Like, it just doesn't spin much. I think high spin players who are looking for something to kind of take some of that away, I think will really like the 0311. It's still pretty darn forgiving. I mean, it's not as forgiving as the XF. You can't hit it just, I mean, when you miss it as far as I did out at the toe or whatever, you're going to see a little more offline with it. But for the most part, it's really solid. Like I said, the only knock I would give to it, I really, the sound is a little loud. It's a little kind of higher metallic sound than I kind of expected, especially when they were talking about how they've kind of modified the acoustics in it. But the playability of it's really good. I'm definitely going to play it some more. It's definitely going to get some play behind or with the rest of the drivers kind of in the arsenal here. But it really is good. Like I said, it's definitely long. I definitely hit some long shots with it. It was a little windy out there, so I mean, hitting into the wind on some of the holes, it was harder to tell, true distance. But stability wise, the XF is really good. The 311 is really good. The 311 XF is really really solid. And if you're looking at kind of the new Gen 5 stuff, wondering how the drivers are and all that, definitely probably the best they made, and probably two of the lower spinning that they've made in a while by a couple hundred RPM. I think the Gen 4 XF, I think they said on average this was about 300 RPM less than the Gen 4 XF, and then the 311 to this is about they're pretty similar. They're about 100 RPM difference between the two. So if you're somebody again looking for lower spin, that Gen 5 0311 will be around 100 RPM, 200 RPM less than this one. So both pretty darn low spinning. 311, the standard 311 will definitely launch a little flatter. This thing here though works really well. And like I said, shockingly, how good it looks at address for somebody who hits it left when you can look down and it looks like 3 degrees open. It has a pretty inspired look to it. That's pretty amazing, and it does look flat. I mean, I don't remember how flat it goes, but it definitely has a flatter look. So the Gen 5 driver I really like. I think it's the best PXG driver that I've hit, and I have not hit them all, but the best one that I've hit to this date. And I hit one. I think I own two or three up there. I have Gen 2 or 3 up in my rafters up there. I don't remember which one. So I've hit a handful of them, and like I said, this one is my favorite so far. And that stability portion, they've carried that over to the fairway woods as well. I mean, the fairway woods, the big thing about those, same thing. You've got 3 big movable weights, which here is my 7 wood. But 3 movable weights, just like the driver, all pushed really far to the outside of the head. So, extreme MOI, extremely forgiving. And when you move them around, same thing, you don't alter that MOI a whole ton. Faces on these are definitely a little deeper than some fairway woods out there. I mean, this is definitely going to be something that, they're not super, super shallow. They've got some depth to them if you're somebody who likes to hit a lot of fairways off the tee. I think that you'll definitely enjoy that little extra space. And then with these here, again, same thing. There's 2 different models. You're going to have the 311 and the 311 XF. And then on these, the other kind of interesting thing that they talked about was this kind of squared face shape. So the face itself kind of has these, it almost looks square at address. It's hard to kind of show on video or talk about over a podcast, but the squared face and basically increases the area of the face and allows them to basically, move more weight to the perimeter, and it kind of boosts some of the forgiveness, the MOI on the head. Just like the driver, it's got that AV crown, that AV carbon crown. So again, kind of a cool look. It's a little more silverish in bright sunlight than it is here on my screen, or talking about a podcast. It definitely doesn't have the same shine as it does when it gets out into the actual sun. But overall, same thing. 0311's a little more compact, head shape, a little smaller overall, and the CG's a little lower for high launch and spin, and then the XF, longer heel to toe, increased forgiveness, really stable. And we were sitting there, so I hit, again, one of these things where we're just struggling to hit the ball getting the ball up in the air, and it's always been something I don't hit super high. So we were going through, messing with 3 woods, messing with whatever. We figured out going to a 5 wood, turned again all the way down, all the way flat, was a really good option, and I literally was losing very little distance, if at any, compared to hitting the actual 3 wood. And the nice thing is that 5 wood, turned down and flat, I was able to launch it super easy off the deck. I was able to launch it off the tee. Everything about that I hit really well, and with that one I got fit into the Mitsubishi Diamante D Plus 70 for that, and the 7 wood. So both those we put the same shafts in. So we sat there and we pulled out the hybrids as well, but the fairway woods, we were hitting those, and it was one of those things where the 311s definitely a little more compact. The look of them was really good, but the 311 XF was just it's just so easy to hit. Like, I mean, it really was. It was just kind of like point and shoot, just whether you're hitting it off the tee, hitting it off the turf, it was just super easy to hit. They definitely get the ball up in the air really easily. And then they have, the XFs have this kind of like mini rail design on the sole as well to kind of help that turf interaction, get through the turf and, kind of, whether it's rough, whether it's fairway, kind of get through the turf, give a little bit of better interaction that way. But the 311 doesn't really have the rail sole. It's a little more of a rounded sole. And then that way it just, keeps some of the mass down to help with forgiveness. And then this one, with the rails, better interaction with the turf. But again, the XF I had just worked better for me. I was able to kind of launch the ball up in the air. Like I said, the 5 wood turned down. Easy to hit off the turf. Probably one of the easiest fairways I've hit off the turf in a long time, especially at that 3 wood distance. I lost a little difference, a little distance on the 5 wood turned down, only because it was the 5 wood in the XF. The XF series is like a degree weaker, just to kind of help get the ball in the air. So the 5 wood in that is like 19. The 5 wood in the 0311 is 18. So I might lose just a little bit of distance with that on course compared to like a traditional actual 3 wood. But if I'm ever hitting it into like an actual green, like on a par 5 or something like that, that 5 wood has actually a chance of stopping, where the 3 wood is going to release for a long, long time and keep rolling. But again, sound and feel on these really good. Very metallic, kind of that like hot steel ting that you usually get. I think that's what kind of everybody looks for in their fairway woods. They've been using the same, I think it was the same steel that they used in the Gen 1 irons on the faces of those. They're using in these fairways. So the HT 1770 face material, so a super hot stainless steel. But the XF is easy to launch, man. It goes high in the air, and it is easy to get up, easy to hit straight, and both of them are just super easy to hit. The 7 wood, I kind of can't wait to get on the course, because unfortunately with the course that we played, I didn't have that many opportunities to hit it. I only had like 1 or 2, and when I hit it well. One of them, the wind was just blowing into us, and I kind of hit it knowing that like I'm probably not going to get it there. The 5 wood was probably going to be too much. This probably wasn't going to be enough, and I did. I came up just a little short, but I mean the shot was like right at the flag the whole way. But this thing here, the XF series, super easy to get in the air. Like I said, good sound and feel. You can really, when you hit it dead center, you can really kind of feel that ball compress and come off the face, like a lot of hot steel. Stainless steel faced fairways. You just have that feel of kind of like compressing the ball and letting it go. The overall look is really good. I mean, a lot of times I've shied away from 5 and 7 woods, especially because they always look shut. I mean, especially if they're not adjustable, they always look shut. These ones here, again, dead square to slightly open. The 5 is 1 down and flat. Looks dead square, if not a little open. The 7 wood, dead square. And that was the thing I told. I was hitting this compared to hybrid, and I hit both hybrids, which are really good. The XF one is super easy to hit. But I was just like, hey, I don't hit it super high. I hit the hybrid, and I hit it pretty decent. But then I hit the 7 wood, and it was just like straight up in the air, straight down, little bit longer, and definitely more consistent. So I was like, all right, let's try the old 7 wood. So 7 wood's going to go in the bag for right now. I think it's going to take the place of my hybrid at the moment, and we're going to see how it goes. Like I said, 1 round, and the range again, I can kill it. I was literally just hitting shots that you probably could have dropped in a baby pool out in the range, just straight in the air, down. I mean, just it was stupid easy to hit. And then on the course, like I said, I hit 2 good balls. Just one of them was dead into the wind, and the other one was just I hooked it a little bit left and put it into a bunker on the left side. So it was one of those that like really excited to kind of hit some greens with it, see how it reacts, but it goes straight up and comes straight down. I gotta believe that it is going to land super soft and it'd be really easy to control. But off the tee, I mean, the XF is really good. The 5 does get up a little higher than, especially than I'm used to. I think it's still going a long ways. But it definitely gets up quick just because, one, I'm hitting a 5 wood off the tee, and I've typically been hitting 3 woods. Even though it's turned down, it's still, 18 degrees for that. So it's still a fairly high loft, so it definitely gets up in the air. So that one I'm going to definitely have to get used to. And also, get in on the course and see, distance-wise when I'm out there actually playing and hitting shots to see, if I'm getting it where I want to get it. But the 7-wood was super fun to hit, and I'm really excited to get it on the course. I haven't played a 7-wood since I was like a teenager, so we're about to see what happens here with this thing. But the fairway woods, I think, are really solid. Now, if you're somebody who wants something that is super shallow, easy to pick, super easy to pick off the turf on really tight lies, these are a little deeper. They may kind of intimidate you a little bit in that category. But I had no problem hitting this 7-wood. I mean, I never put it anywhere near a tee. I just basically plopped it on the balls on the ground and just hit them and hit shots dead in the air, straight up in the air, came straight down. So the deep face is something I typically used to get intimidated about, at least with the 7-wood. This 5-wood, no problems there. In terms of the 5-wood, it's pretty darn long. It's pretty good. I think, like I said, it's a little shorter than my 15 degree, but I think I'm going to have definitely more control with it. That one we'll see, how it stays in the bag, because it'll be a battle with, with some other 3-woods this year that I've been hitting and trying out. Same thing with this, both 7-wood and 5-wood. I believe both of them. I've got the heavier weight in the toe, so heavy weights in the toe, lighter weight in the heel. Just trying to kind of produce as much fade as possible. The other interesting thing is, like I said, I got fitted at D plus 70 in the 7-wood, and I hit it pretty well. I'm wondering what an 80-gram shaft will kind of feel like in there, so I may try to get an 80-gram of something to slap in there to see how it goes. But first, I'm going to take it out and try it. But the 7-wood is pretty exciting. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm definitely going to have it out there in the league, which starts up next week. Yes, we're going to tell you guys, league starts up next week. Talk about that at the end. But the fairway's really good. The hybrids are really solid as well. I mean, they're really versatile. The kind of the big thing with the hybrids that I kind of noticed was just how good they look. The XF is definitely bigger. They both have pretty deep faces. But the XF you can get in basically 19, 22, 25, 28, and 31. So 31's a 7-iron replacement in the hybrid. And I guess they just said in the XF they've had a lot of guys, even Bob, who's wanted to experiment with going that low in the hybrids. So they have that. All of them, again, same thing, have the adjustable hosels so you can make them flat. The 311 definitely goes straight, and I think you set the thing in flat, put the heavy weights out in the toe, it's going to be crazy anti-left. So the 0311, I think a lot of better players are going to really like that thing. That comes in basically a 17, 19, 22, 25. So you can even get a 5 in that. But I think those guys who are going to play the 3 and the 4, the 19 and the 22, going to be super anti-left when you put it in flat and put those heavy weights in the toe. It's just going to be one of those things that's going to be tough to turn over, and I think a lot of better players, you're going to see that go in the bag. Now the XF has pretty much the same setup as well. It's just a little bigger, and it does get up in the air pretty easily. It just doesn't go as high as the 7-wood. So that was the big difference. I hit them both side by side, and the trajectory on good shots was just substantially higher with the 7-wood, and they were pretty much going the same distance. So I would get a little more roll out of the XF hybrid, but the 7-wood just, straight in the air, straight down. It was really easy to hit. So that's why I went with the 7-wood. So right now my setup is for my PXG bag, driver, 5-wood turned down, 7-wood turned, and we turned the 7-wood down a little bit. I think we turned the 7-wood down a degree as well, because it's a 22. I think it's turned down to 21 and flat. So that is set that way as well. But I didn't really have a problem with it going left. And like I said, with it being turned down and flat, it looks pretty much dead square. Like, it doesn't look shut. And every other 7-wood, for the most part, that I've tried, looks stupid shut. So this thing here definitely has caught my eye, especially from the look of it. So, but the hybrid's really solid as well. Like I said, hit both of those. I think the 311s for the anti-left guys are gonna really, really like that one, especially with a little stiffer shaft in it. They're definitely going to be impressed with the way those things go. So those are the woods. That's what I'm got to fit into there, and then we move into irons. So 3 different irons. There's the XFs. I'm sorry, the XP. So the extra playable. We go into the extra playable. So there's going to be 3 different models: the XP, the P, and then the T. So the P is going to be the players. And I did a little bit of a combo set So the 4-iron in my set is actually the P. So I did the 4-iron and the P, and it is, just like you saw online. I know Zach Johnson had the black version of these in the bag. You will be able to get the black. I have the chrome. They didn't have the black ones available to us to even get, because they were just getting these things into their their warehouse, their office, their build shops. So the chrome with the black tungsten weights in the heel and toe were all that was available to us, which is fine. I mean, I think they look really good anyway. And some people don't like the black because it eventually will wear. Now there is like a diamond coat plating that should hold up to a lot of use, but it still will wear eventually. So I did the 4 in the P, and then the rest 5 through pitch in the T series. So the 0311P. It's still pretty compact. It's still pretty thin from a top line perspective. Sole wise, it's a little bit wider. The biggest question everybody asked is are these black weights, or there's silver on the black ones? Are those weights removable? And they're actually not weights. They are just basically a look of a weight milled into the head. So the head actually, it looks like they're weights there. They're not. Talking to the guys there, like Schweigert and one of the other engineers, they were sitting there telling us how they originally wanted these to be weights, like actual tungsten weights, and they would be interchangeable and all that. But they said the machine work to get them to fit flush and not vibrate or move or affect any of the feel, the sound, anything like that, was really a huge issue. And they could just go to the longer tungsten screws, which is what it's in there now. They just went to longer tungsten screws, and it solved the whole problem. So, and it was much easier to do, and it didn't have any negative effects on, like I said, with vibration, anything like that. But they said machining it with the fact where it would fit absolutely perfect and not, have any issues. It just wasn't worth it when they could actually put just a little more traditional screws in there. So, 5 screws, 2 in the heel, 3 in the toe, all tungsten shot in there, and they will. Basically, those I think are set in terms of weight. I think there are some slightly heavier, slightly lighter, but for the most part, those are set. And then the big middle screw is the one that they actually dial in for swing weight. So that carries over pretty much from Gen 4. But the Ps look really good. These things, like before, this is a 5 times forged head. So what they did with this, before they used to have the frame, so the hosel into the head, and then the face was laser welded on, and they would CNC machine out the inside of the frame, so they could put in the what do you want to call it, the kind of the rubber material, the polyurethane material, so they could put it in there, and they would machine out everything. Well, they found that yes, they could do that, but they could also now with the forging that they can do, they could make the same intricate little grooves and slots and all that with just forging it 5 times instead of the traditional like 3 or 2 or whatever people would do. So they forged the actual frame, the outside of the body, 5 times. It's stamped 5 times with the forging machine, and then they laser with they fill it with foam, laser weld the face on, however they put that thing together. But the face is crazy thin. It's got like behind it like a little groove that's a U that goes from basically the low toe up into the high part, up into the top of the face and then back down in the heel. They call it a power channel. It helps kind of flex and remove some of the hot spot. It's called power channel, but it kind of removes some of the hot spots while keeping the face flexing. And I think they actually found it too that the X-Core 2 material in here that they're using, which is brand new, which is lighter and it's more responsive and has a little bit of rebound to it. If they didn't have that channel in there, the ball would come out actually a little lower, and it would come out like lower with like less spin or something like that. So they modified that so the ball came out just a little higher, had a little more spin on it, and or lower spin, but it had an impact on spin and launch. So they added that little power channel to help with that on the inside. Now, they say these are the best the best feeling sounding irons that PXG has made. I will say that these or the Ps, let's just say the Ps, in terms of performance, launch super easy to launch high. I got fit into the Elevate 95s, the True Temper Elevate 95s in these, which I was kind of shocked because we knew we needed to get the ball in the air. I think I started with Modus 120, and I hit some okay shots with them, whatever. But between the P's and the T's, I really like the look of the T's better, but I needed to, to get the ball up in the air, so the Elevate 95 was the way to go. And then the 4-iron went with the P just because, looked for something that hit a little higher, a little longer heel to toe, so it's a little more stable. Just overall, a little easier to hit package. So the 4-iron went with this. And I do have to say, like, each version, I would say, of the PXG irons that have come out, I feel like each one has gotten almost like a little softer. You've had because I've hit Gen 1s, I've hit Gen 2s. I owned a set of Gen 1s that I turned into, like, I think, what did I do? I turned those into single lengths, and I think my brother's playing them. And then I had a set of Gen 2 Ts that I still have. They're in a drawer over here. This thing's not going to stand up. I was hoping to get this iron to stand up for my YouTube viewers, but it's not going to happen. So I had a set of Gen 2 Ts, and then I've hit the 3s, and I have a coworker who has the 4s, so I've hit them all, and they've all seemed to get like a little softer. Excuse me, a little softer. And these here definitely have a little firmer feel to them. They've gone back a little firmer, but there's still no, like, when you hit them solid, it is like a forged stud. Like, it's super soft, but it definitely is more responsive, especially if you use like a softer ball, like if you're somebody who uses a chrome soft or something like that. I feel like the PXG's got almost to like the mushy point in terms of, you had like no feel. It was just the ball would just leave the face and that was it. I feel like these new ones here definitely more responsive. When you miss-hit it, it doesn't, the vibration doesn't like rattle through the head, but it does mute some of that, but you still know you missed it. And when you hit it flush, it's got that heavy thud to it when it goes. So I think sound and feel on the P's and the T's are both greatly improved. And then the T's, which I went, like I said, 5 through pitching wedge, little shorter heel to toe, definitely less offset. You're going to notice the offset in the P's a little more. The XP, I hit, I think, just in the 4-iron, but it definitely same thing. It's got a little offset to it, a little chunkier. The T's are pretty, I wouldn't call them intimidating, but they are definitely a little smaller iron. They're definitely not, not huge, but the amount of forgiveness they actually offer is pretty darn good. I mean, stuff that I was missing off the toe was carrying much farther than I really wanted to, or than I really thought it would. And then when I was kind of getting fit for these, Jesse was kind of like, well, what are you looking to hit your 7-iron? Because that's what we were hitting out there. We were hitting 7-irons, and I was like, 7-irons like I like to fly at 160. And we were, like I said, a little into the wind, and when the wind died down, I hit some good shots. I mean, it was like 160 into the wind there. So, I mean, I think distance-wise, these tees are going to be pretty darn hot. The tee basically, like I said, uses same thing, super thin face. This X-Core 2, rubber or material inside. And then, like I said, same thing, 5 times forward. It's got the same tungsten weights in the heel and the toe. But really easy to hit. I mean, they really are kind of like, if you're that player like myself I'm a bad 9. I go out, I don't practice much at all, but I just go out and play. These things are going to allow you to get away with some shots that you typically don't get away with. And if you miss it a little off the toe, a little off the heel, whatever, it's going to still have some ball speed, still going to get the ball up in the air, and the sound and feel is really, really good. And when you set them down, they look like a player's club. They got, very minimal offset. The top line's really thin. They're overall probably, they're a little bigger than, say, like a T100 or something like that if you set them down next to those. But the look of them is actually really good. They're, just slightly bigger than some of the other CB-type irons, but they pack a ton of tech into them. They're really stable. And I hit some really good shots with them. I really did. And then, since I've been home, going to the range a little bit, hitting these again, they've been really good. I mean, they're a little, maybe just a little bit shorter than my P770s. But those tend to not spin as much as these. These have a little more spin than the 770s. And these also launched just to look a little bit higher. So, distance-wise, yes, the 770s are probably just a little bit longer, but in terms of holding their own, these definitely do that. And in terms of forgiveness, you probably get away with a little bit more with the tees than the P770s, in my opinion. I mean, I think stuff stays on line just a little bit better. The whole set looks really good. They transition well into the pitching wedge. The pitching wedge has, a pretty good shape. It matches the rest of the irons. I know some sets, especially with kind of like, that more player set, you can get into some of the lower irons, and they look a little big, a little rounded. Definitely don't have that. But these things here are pretty easy to launch. Like I said, I went to a higher launching shaft. I think, with something standard, these probably are more of like a mid to mid-high launching iron. I don't think they're crazy high. They're definitely workable. You can hit pretty much whatever shot if you want to work it, right to left, anything like that. Hit it low, hit it high. You can definitely work it with the tees. The Ps are a little harder. I mean, they're going to get up in the air. There's no way around that. You're not going to be able to flight them down quite as much as you are the tees. But also, longer heel to toe, you're going to get a little bit more stability with that P than you would the tees. But these things have done really well. I've really enjoyed them so far hitting them. They tend to have, or they seem to have, a decent amount of bounce on them, so they should be fairly good in the soft conditions. I, again, was, very impressed with Scottsdale National, but it's not as rock hard as you think it would be. You can take a divot, all that, and the turf interaction with these was pretty darn solid. So, overall, really impressed with the tees. I think if you're that, almost single digit or close to it and want something that's a little, that you can hit, that looks great, but you can still hit, get away with hitting some poor shots with it, these tees are pretty darn good. And, like I said, with a little higher launching shaft like I have, they're really easy to get up in the air. So I was hitting those nice and high. The 4-iron I was actually hitting really well. I took it out on the range. I went 2 times since I've been home. Took it out and actually hit that 4-iron against, say, like the Mizuno Fly High and my Tour Edge tie utility. And honestly, I hit this higher. It launches a little higher. I'm a little more consistent with it. So that may make it into the bag over the other two at the moment, at least. We got to see, though. Like I said, we got to get on the course and try some things. But the P&T, the Gen 5 iron is really good. Like I said, the feel on them, I think they are the best feeling PXG irons that have been out in a long time. They may be my favorite in terms of feel, just because they are a little firmer while still being soft, while still being solid. They have a little more responsiveness to them. They're not as mushy soft as they started to get with like the Gen 3, Gen 4s. So personally, I think they feel really, really good. I know people are going to say, they're so expensive, whatever. That's true. The amount of forging work, machining work, all the screws, all that stuff. I mean, I see where that money goes a little bit, so I get it. But if you're somebody who's looking at the PXG stuff, I mean, it is, the irons are really, really good. So the only knock I'll give them, honestly, is, the stock grip is that Z5 from Lamkin. It's a little soft. I don't love it, but if you're going to custom order these things, you're probably going to custom order them with your own grip anyway. And the other thing, too, is that the finish tends to beat up a little quicker than I thought it would. Some of the scuff, some of the bag chatter, that kind of stuff, I haven't had them that long, and they are, they show a little more marking than I would have thought. So I'll give them a knock on that, but that's a pretty minimal thing. But overall, like I said, really like the irons. I think they play really well. Excited to get them on the course some more and try them out. So how much time am I burned up here? I've gone a long way. I was going to jump into I'll jump into the wedges really quick, even though I know that they're not new. But got the Sugar Daddy 2s, and basically the Sugar Daddy 2 is really interesting that they are all full face grooved, so they all have grooves from heel all the way to toe, but the shape isn't like super high toe-ish. When you set it down, especially the 50, so even the 50 degree has full face grooves, but when you set it down, you almost forget that they're there because it's got such a traditional wedge shape. It was pretty interesting. I kind of didn't realize they were full grooves until a couple shots in and realized what I was doing. But the one club that I'm kind of impressed with out of the whole Sugar Daddy set, 58 BP grind, which is 13 degrees of bounce, which actually is more than that. If you talk to the guys at PXG, it's 13. I think it is definitely more than that. But a wedge that it's a thin sole, it's not super wide, it's pretty thin, but it's got a good amount of bounce, little trailing edge relief, But I tell you what, this thing you can just kind of like the D grind from Titleist. You can kind of smack it into the ground, and it just kind of pops the ball up and out. And the first couple shots, the guy, my fitter there, took me to like over a bunker to kind of a tight area. There were 2 pins. It was kind of tight, but over a bunker, and it was like maybe 20 yards, from here to the center of the green. Maybe a little more than that, maybe 30. And it was like the first shot, and he's like, all right, let's hit a few. And I was just like, oh boy, like this is going to be bad. I'm going to be chunking these things everywhere, all that. And I was really impressed with the turf interaction on this BP grind. Like I said, you can really kind of get down, get into it. It just kind of hits the turf, pops up, the ball pops out, and it gets, up and out really quick. Like I said, the even for a steep guy like myself, it was really easy to kind of, I wouldn't say even get away, but just hit your normal shots and have the confidence you can kind of, like I said, slam it into the ground. It's not going to dig. And the feel of them is pretty good. They're not the softest wedge I've ever hit. They've got a little click to them. They've got a little firmness to them when you first out of impact. And we were hitting Pro V, I think Pro V1s, Pro V1Xs. But it's got just a touch of a click to it at impact. The spin is pretty darn good for a 30-yard shot. You're not going to be putting an absolute ton of spin on it, but hitting it pretty crisp, getting it onto the green, and getting it to just release a little bit. Having the grooves out there on the toe is pretty nice. I mean, even the 50 degree, which I hit a little more full shots with, getting over the top and coming down on it, I tend to hit it off the toe. And when I did that with this thing, I mean, there's grooves there, and you tend to get a little more carry out of it. It tends to be a little more consistent on the green when it hits and stops. And it just overall just makes the wedge a little more consistent. And really, like the way these things are designed, you don't even really realize that there's grooves out there. Like it doesn't bother you. Like I've messed around with some of the Cleveland, the RTX ones, and they're a different shape. So you definitely notice, the difference there. These you really don't. Like they're pretty much a standard wedge. The leading edge is pretty straight. It's only got just a little radius to it, even in the 58. But you could open this thing up a little bit. Now the 13 degrees of bounce in the 58, and there's a little trailing edge relief, but if you open it up, the leading edge is going to rise a little bit off the ground. Not horribly, but it isn't something that if you're playing off like Texas hardpan and you want to hit the ultimate flop shot, this is probably not there. The other wedge grind, I can't remember what it's called, would probably be better for you. There's one that has a little lower bounce to it. That would be probably a better option. But I hit kind of both. The BP was definitely the one. I went BP in all three, 50, 54, 58. And we basically went to the 58 just because with the 60, I mean, I just didn't, I hit the 60, I'm fine with it, but I mean, opening the face, all that, just trying to manipulate it. I don't practice enough. I'm just not consistent with it. So I went to the 58, and for the most part, I can pretty much hit the same, high shots. Like I said, back in Michigan, I should still be able to open it up and hit and get under the ball because the leading edge isn't going to rise up as much. Things a little more lush here. But overall, the Sugar Daddy 2s are pretty darn good. Spin-wise, I would say they're probably comparable to my Vokey in terms of spin. They maybe don't spin quite as hard as, say, the Cleveland Zip Cores, but they're pretty darn close. Like I said, feel a little on the firmer side, but nothing bad. I mean, there's just a little bit of click to it at impact. On the full shots, you'll lose a little of that. You'll get a little more of a thud, but there's still a little more audible click, a little firmer. But like I said, the BP grind plays really well, and it's like I said, it should be pretty good in the softer conditions here. So I'm excited to hit this some more around here because that will tell how it really is. Because playing in Arizona is great, but I'm going to be playing on a little softer, a little more lush conditions over here. But that is PXG. That is Gen 5. The stuff's pretty good, man. The other cool thing, the head covers. So they've got a little camo, big PXG logo. They've got a little camo at the top where they have, whether it's driver or 5-wood, 3-wood, whatever. But then the other side on the back of it, I guess, there's this little they call it the quick stick cart magnet. And it's a little button that looks, it's rubber and it's gray, but it's actually a magnet, and you can actually stick it to the cart. And I didn't even realize they had it until one of the guys in our group did it, and he stuck it up there. And so you don't lose head coverage. You just stick it on the side of the cart, like the support to the roof support. But it's got a little magnet, and all of them have it, which is pretty cool that you can just walk by, stick your head cover on there, and not lose it. And I was like, that is just kind of a cool little perk of those head covers. So something kind of cool, but Anyway, it's all I've got for PXG Gen 5 stuff. Really good. Had a great time. And yes, as I mentioned, next week is first night of men's league. So Thursday night league starting up. If the weather's good, we're playing. 9 holes, St. Clair Shores. It's on. Pretty excited. My brothers actually. I have 2 younger brothers. My middle brother's going to be joining the league this year. Him and I playing first thing out. We're not playing each other, but we're just playing the same foursome. So it'll be a good time. But super excited. League starting up, and you guys know I like to come in and brag about how poorly I play. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, league starting up, and yeah, going to be a blast. So hopefully you guys have a good week. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, hit me up on Instagram at ClubJunkiePod. I did my Q&A yesterday. I got an absolute ton of questions. I appreciate it. You guys were just blowing me up. That's awesome. I got through as many as I could. So if I didn't get yours, I apologize. There's just a ton in there, and I just ran out of time. I had to kind of record this show. So anyway, hopefully you guys have a great day, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.